Welcome to the American Amnion Association Podcast, a show dedicated to exploring the groundbreaking advancements in birth tissue-derived medical technologies, the power of collaboration, and the future of regenerative healthcare. Each episode, we bring you thought leaders, industry pioneers, and medical experts who are shaping the next frontier of healing and patient care. Today, I'm honored to welcome back Jerry Pascucci, board chair and president of the American Amnion Association and a seasoned leader in the medtech industry. With over a decade of experience, Jerry has played a pivotal role in guiding companies through the complexities of bringing medical innovations, specifically birth tissue-derived innovations, to market. He's also played a key role in bringing amniotic membrane into the surgical space, where he educates surgeons across the United States on how amniotic membrane use in surgeries can greatly improve patient outcomes. Today, we're talking to Jerry and talking about his current role as Chief Commercial Officer at Evologics America, a biotech organization in San Antonio. Currently, Jerry is spearheading a pivotal study to test the EVO Patch amniotic graft in a large animal model of gastrointestinal surgery. This work isn't just another research milestone. It's a critical step toward proving what many of us in the birth tissue community already know, that amniotic grafts can transform surgical healing, protect patients, and expand access to life-saving therapies. The FDA has made it clear. Rigorous large animal data is the bridge between promising lab science and real-world clinical adoption. Jerry and his team are building that bridge. Their study has the potential to set a precedent, not just for EVO Patch, but for how amnion-based innovations are validated and brought into mainstream medicine. And when that happens, the entire birth tissue industry benefits, from researchers and surgeons to the patients whose lives depend on better options. Jerry, we are so excited to have you back here today and to hear about the study that you're leading and the impact you believe it will have on our industry. So once again, welcome. It's always great seeing you.
Thrilled to be here. Thanks for having me back.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So tell me a little bit about the study and how it came about.
Yeah, so the large animal study is a part of a bigger project that we have going on, right? So we started with small animal mice subjects and have completed that study. We're getting ready for publication now. Took that into rats, right? So a little bit of a bigger subject. And now the next step as a part of the entire process is to take that into some form of large animal, and we'll be working with pigs for ours. And excitedly, we just we performed our first surgery on pigs this past Wednesday. So we are officially underway. But it's a part of a bigger, clinical trial project that we're working on with the FDA. Looking at our flagship product, EVO Patch, and its use in colorectal surgery, amongst other surgical specialties. But the goal is really, it's kind of a multifold goal, as far as what we're actually investigating, with kind of that first arm being, what is amnion doing at a cellular level? Right. No one's been able to answer the question, what does amnion do? Why does it work? We all know that it works. Anyone that's got experience with birth tissue products know that amniotic membrane works across multiple specialties, from wound healing to surgical intervention. But no one's been able to answer the question, why does it work? So number one, first and foremost, we're trying to answer the question, what is amniotic membrane doing and why is it helping patients? A second goal that we have through the project is to realize whether or not amniotic membrane can serve as an adjunct to colorectal surgery for anastomotic leak prevention. And anastomotic leaks are incredibly burdensome at the hospital level for a variety of reasons, right? Many patient factors, right? Mortality and morbidity drastically increase with an anastomotic leak. But at the hospital level, expenditure goes through the roof as well, with, an anastomotic leak, a clinically presenting anastomotic leak costing a hospital on average $200,000 per event. So there's a huge systemic expenditure that increases as well. So yeah, there's a lot of different things that we're looking to prove out and explore during these studies, but that's kind of the premise of it.
That's awesome. And a national average, I mean, we're talking like 23% leak rate in those types of surgeries. Is that correct?
Um, so that's on the higher end, definitely on the higher end. This the current, and that's another great point I think that you just made is that there's not enough literature out there about anastomotic leaks currently. So the current literature reads anywhere from 20 or from 2% up to 24%.
Okay.
So I think what we're seeing is closer to a 6 to 8% average.
Okay.
Um,
I was
which
way
is
off.
still a drastically high number.
Sure, sure. Yeah, it is. And and going back to that point, I mean, I know that you have been, spearheading just the movement to have surgeons integrate EVO Patch into their, anastomosis, type, surgeries as far as the colorectal. And the leak rates have gone down. It's just a matter of, I mean, we're not going to open somebody back up again to prove that it's working. Is that kind of a correct assessment at this point? And one of the reasons why we're going into, you're going into this like large animal study?
Yeah, I think finding out why it's working is really the pressing question. So what is it actually doing? How is it actually preventing these anastomotic leaks? That's the question that we're trying to answer. And that's definitely the question that the pig studies are going to answer for us. And then everything after that will kind of be really tertiary, but super significant, right? Most providers want to see an expert level of clinical evidence prior to buying into, a new product, right? You've kind of in the stages of sales, you've got early adopters, early innovators, and then the guys that aren't going to change until there's actual clinical research out there. So we're trying to um, we're also shooting for mass adoption, right? And the only way that you could do that is with peer-reviewed, prospective, randomized evidence.
Right, right, sure. So that's what's a really interesting thing about this study is that, again, you had said at the beginning, we know it works, we just don't know how. So is this going deep into kind of like the whole healing cascade and what it does?
Yeah, definitely.
Wow, that's interesting. And so how, like, tell me some of the protocols with that. That just seems that's fascinating to me in the sense to where, and I don't want you to give away any information as far as what you're doing, but it's just fascinating to me that you guys really are kind of the first in the industry to go where no man has gone before or woman or whatever because again, everybody kind of knows it works, but they don't know how. And so that healing cascade is so important, you know. Uh,
Yeah,
could you give me just it's one thing to say, oh, okay, we're going to do, surgeries on pigs and, we're going to go ahead and see if it prevents leaks, that kind of thing. But it's another like completely different level to say, no, we're going to take it one step forward and we're going to explore the whole healing cascade process. What brought you to that? I mean, it would have been really easy just to say, yeah, it works. Here it goes. Here
yeah. I mean, I think from a sales perspective, right, there's very obvious need for it. Again, just going back to the fact that, for mass adoption, you truly do need peer-reviewed prospective evidence, right? We're up to this point, we've got retrospective data collection evidence, which is great. We've been able to show that retrospectively it works. But still the gold standard of all studies is peer-reviewed prospective evidence. So there's that arm to it. As far as how we've decided to investigate the healing cascade as a whole, my hypothesis from day one with this has been that the amniotic membrane is forcing these wounds, these anastomoses, to heal at a very rapid rate, within a couple of days compared to a couple of weeks with traditional standard of care. So what does that look like, right? How are we healing it so much quicker than standard of care, right? And if you start the entire project with that question, everything that you do ultimately ends up being about solving that, providing an answer to solve that question. So, we've very intentionally set a lot of the parameters involved with the study to look at, what it's doing as far as anastomotic closure. So we've got cytokine data, we've got collagen content data, we've got protein analyses, we've got a lot of really, really, really important data that is kind of backing up that theoretical hypothesis currently. And we've proven out that hypothesis in mice. We've shown anastomotic closure within 72 hours of implant in mice. And the thing about working with mice is there's much less peritoneal fluid than working with a human or with a pig.
Oh,
So
okay.
the running hypothesis there would be whatever's working in mice is going to work a lot quicker and a lot more rapidly in the bigger subjects.
Okay. Okay. Interesting. And I mean, silly question on my end. I'm sure that everybody who's viewing out there and you and everybody else, why pigs?
Pigs, in the grand scheme of things, have a very close resemblance to human anatomy. So when you're most of the time you want to get as close to human anatomy as possible when you're doing any of these types of animal studies. And for us, it was incredibly important for us to be as close to humans. So we were kind of um, between pigs and primates, and from a budgetary perspective, along with a handful of other things, it just made more sense for us to do it in pigs.
Sure. Okay. Okay, great. All right. And are you at this point in time, it's the first surgery on the little pig or the big pig. Are there going to be more?
Yeah, so there'll be a total of 11.
11. Okay. All right. Okay, great. And what are they going to be looking for? Like what is, without giving too much away, because I don't want you to give any, proprietary things away by any means, but what are they going to be looking for? What are you looking for in this?
We're looking at, so it's pretty much going to be a repeat of everything that we've done in the mice.
Okay.
It's taking it from the mice, which have, very non-comparable parameters or anatomy to a human. Um, but we did everything that we wanted to investigate in the mice. So we're just kind of redoing the study in a larger animal population.
Okay. All right. And why gastrointestinal? Why colorectal? Why did you choose that field?
Yeah, so colorectal's been really the focus of Evologics since even prior to my joining. Our founder, Mike Crescenzo, he's been um, steadfast in wanting to solve the problem of anastomotic leaks since he brought Evologics to market back in 2009. Um, and, I think in me joining the forces, we just brought some minds together that could finally make his vision a reality. So, since my joining of Evologics, a lot of our sales activity and our sales focus has been around colorectal surgery and about getting the word out there to as many institutions as possible. And something on that, the clinical research sites that we're speaking with already, and there are some very, 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 very large name institutions that we have that'll be clinical trial sites, that I'll be happy to share with you offline. But they have been incredibly excited about what we're doing, and absolutely believe that if we can repeat these results, that the FDA is going to be thrilled with what they see, along with the Center for Medicare Services. So we feel really, really good about everything that we're doing right now.
That's fantastic. Yeah. And do you know, I mean, I might have to have Mike Crescenzo on the show, but do you know why he was so passionate about solving this challenge? Or was it just, hey, like, this is just I've seen too many great opportunity, we're gonna go for it.
No, I mean, there's a story to tell there for sure. I'm not sure if it's my story to tell, but What I'll say is there's a familial connection to anastomotic leaks.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, that just, and I want to share with the viewers that obviously, yes, I mean, we're very sensitive about that, but I do think that it's noteworthy to say that it's personal and that he wants
Yeah,
to solve, a problem and prevent others from, just suffering that same fate. Yeah.
100%. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, his passion is very, very personal. His passion is very, very personal to him and to what happened to a family member. Um, and I think, his mission being about solving that problem for all future generations is incredibly admirable. And is definitely one of the reasons why I've been as passionate as I have been about selling the product line.
That's awesome. And and going back to those types of surgeries, I mean, it seems to me like they're getting increasingly, prevalent. Tell me and tell the audience that aren't familiar with this, the ramifications of having an anastomosis leak and the complications involved.
Yeah, anastomotic leaks can cause a wide range of potential repercussions to the patient. Um, because you got to think about like what's actually happening when an anastomosis leaks, right? We're talking about the bowel, we're talking about the intestines. So stuck in the intestines and the bowel or bile, right? It's broken down, excrete, whatever's about to be excreted. Um, So if you have a leak there, you're not leaking water, you're not leaking saline, you're not leaking, a non-cumbersome fluid. You're leaking the broken down form of food and drink and anything else you put into your body. So when that leaks, the incident of infection, the incident of sepsis, drastically increases, right? So your patients die from anastomotic leaks all the time. Like it's very commonplace to hear of a patient dying from an infection that they gained from an anastomotic leak or from sepsis related to an anastomotic leak. So, there's, from a strict mortality morbidity perspective, there's a drastic reason why preventing anastomotic leaks is so important. Um, but on the hospital side, there's a whole host of reasons why we want to avoid leaks too, right? ICU day stays drastically increase, reoperation drastically increases. Um, just cost of care, right? If a non-leak patient's in the hospital for 4 days and a leak patient's in the hospital for 21 days, well, what is that? There's 17 days of additional care there
Yeah.
that is drastically increasing the overall expenditure to the insurance company, to the hospital, to the patient. Cost of care goes through the roof.
Yeah.
Um, but I definitely believe, the biggest ones that are pressing are the death component and then, the ICU day stays, right? Because you're taking up a bed that might be needed for another trauma patient that came in from an MBA. Right, and now you have a leak patient taking up that bed, so you can't care for additional patients. So there's a whole host of reasons why preventing these is so important.
Yeah, yeah, from the administrative side, and then I would think that from obviously the patient side that there's probably just a byproduct that pain decreases and
Yeah,
healing is faster just because of the amniotic just the properties of amnion. So it just sounds like it's kind of a win-win all the way around.
for sure, for sure. Yeah, bringing in the antimicrobial, antibacterial properties of birth tissue, um, that definitely helps. But again, my hypothesis is that by using amnion, we're forcing these wounds to heal at a much more rapid rate.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is a monumental study and we'll obviously wrap with this, but you were also, I mean, you've been kind of responsible as far as spearheading some of our surgeons, specifically Dr. Andy Billen, in a human kind of clinical study. And that, at least reading it, showed to me the efficacy, from the human standpoint. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, we've between two centers, we've implanted the specific patch that we're investigating in over 500 patients from a data collection perspective, right? So, I mean, the graft itself's been implanted in thousands of patients, but from a study and anastomotic leak perspective, we've collected about 500 or over 500 patients worth of data. Um, and it showed incredible results. It showed an institutional leak rate reduction of about 4.5% from 6.5 to 2,
Wow.
which is, incredibly, incredibly powerful. If we're able
Yeah.
to reduce, leaks by what, 60 to 80%, that's drastically, drastically important.
Yeah. Wow. That's insane. That's insane. And so basically what you're doing is you're recreating that for the large animal study that, the FDA wants and loves to receive that data because, to the FDA, I mean, I completely, totally understand their stance, on a lot of issues in regard to, implantation in humans. And I think that, like I said, that extra step that you're taking in regard to showing the actual healing cascade, I think is going to obviously change the industry, for good. Again, like what you said, from an FDA perspective and CMS, which I think is very, very important, because we're seeing just, yeah, I mean, that's just transforming by the day. So I think that it's incredible what you're doing and what Evologics is doing and what all of the surgeons are doing, in regard to participation. So yeah, when is this study? When do you think this is going um, to wrap up? When do you think it's going to be presentable? Not presentable, but when do you think it's going to wrap up?
So in totality, inclusive of the clinical trial, we're probably 14 to 16 months away from the last patient being enrolled, and then we'll have about a month or so to write it up after that. The animal studies themselves, they should be completed by November 1st.
Okay. Wow, that's super, super impressive.
Yeah, so we're moving
Just
quick.
yeah, yeah, moving quick, and I think that, now more than ever, that kind of rapid response that, you and your team are doing is just so imperative in regard to, just moving this forward in, the medical field, and also, giving patients just the best treatment and best care that they can receive. And, it sounds to me like a, the best chance, I mean, if you're going to have
Absolutely.
to go through, these type of surgical procedures, I would like the best care and the best chance that I have. I certainly don't want to have a leak or, just go through sepsis and all that yucky stuff that kind of comes with it. So yeah,
And
yeah.
that's a huge, another huge testament to EVO Patch. Since our inception in '09, we've never had an adverse event reported against EVO Patch or any of our other products. And that's something we're incredibly proud of as an organization. Um, that's a testament to how we process tissue and the donor screenings that we require for all of our tissue. And um, yeah, so it's ultimately, I agree with you. There's not a single one of these procedures that should be performed that doesn't receive an EVO patch at this point. You're using an immunoprivileged product, meaning um, the adverse potential is incredibly, incredibly low, if not non-existent, in utilizing the product. So why not use it like a seatbelt,
Right.
right? We all put seatbelts on to drive, and none of us are in an accident every day of the week, but we still put the seatbelt on to drive.
Hey, and prior to seatbelt laws, yeah, how many people were dying because they weren't wearing the seatbelts? So that's a great analogy,
Right,
Like,
exactly. So
if we're
that's our goal. is making EVO Patch standard of care for these types of procedures.
That's fantastic. That's awesome. That's great. Well, I'm so happy that you joined us. And I wanted this to be just kind of a quick overview, just like a little bite-sized thing so that, our viewers will understand the importance of these studies and the commitment and dedication that, organizations have to take in order to, get to the next step and, just get in front of the FDA and really, prove that this is, good medicine. So, just kudos to you and your team and it's fascinating. And I am going to have you back on again once this is all wrapped up because I am really, really just excited to see the results that this brings.
Awesome. Well, let me know. Happy to do it at any time. It's always great speaking with you about this type of stuff. So, I'm available whenever you need me.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And you guys, thank you for watching the American Amnion Association.
Yes,
If
thank
there's
you.
anybody out there that, has similar just projects that are happening and are interested to be on the show, please, you know where to find me. I'm on LinkedIn. It's American Amnion Association. Reach out. You can also reach out to Jerry as president and chair. So thank you for watching and have a great day.